Thank you so much, Dr. Young, and good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Really happy to share some of my perspective about cloud computing and some of the key advantages that I think it can bring to many businesses. And in order to do that, I like to always start going back to what we used to do before we had cloud computing, because I think when you go back and you remember what we had to do, you realize how much of a game changer this technology has been for businesses all over the world. And I'm gonna go way, way back. And this is a picture of me and my best friend at one of his birthday party. I'm the one with the red shirt. I was a lot cuter back then. But this, the reason I put this picture is because the first time I saw a computer is because right after the birthday party of my friend Laurent, he was given an Apple computer. And I was so excited to see it. And that basically started my careers in computers. And as soon as I got back home, I wanted a computer as well. So I'm going to walk you through the process of what I had to do to have my own computer after that. And I put together a little diagram to try to explain that, right? So first, my friend bought a computer. So that meant I wanted a computer now, but I had to convince my parents. They told me to wait for my birthday. Then on my birthday, I went to the store. We bought the computer, but I had to wait for the computer to get shipped to Haiti because I was living in Haiti. Then when it got shipped, the store told me to come pick it up. Then I had to set it up. And then finally, after all this time, I was able to play with my computer. So the whole process that I had to follow was first beg, then buy, then wait, and then install. And the reason I like to share this story is because if you think about what companies that are building their own data centers are doing, they're doing the same thing, right? Whenever they need hardware, computers, they have to go to a set of steps that's very similar. That is back in the day before the cloud. They need to figure out, okay, what software am I going to run? What are the requirements of that software? Based on these requirements, what is the hardware that I need to buy? How much hardware do I need? This phase alone can take a long time and a lot of analysis. And then you need to get a budget, convince the boss, wait for an approval, contact the procurement department, get the computers bought, get them shipped, wait for an IT team to install, configure them, and then finally you can deploy your application. This is a very long and tedious process, and this can take sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months to happen. And this is why cloud computing is such a game changer, because with cloud computing today, you don't need to go through all of this anymore. You have cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, Alibaba, that have put their data centers and their computers, they've made them available for anybody that needs some computing power to use that. And so now, if I need more, if I want a computer, all I have to say is, hey, Microsoft, let me borrow a little bit of your computing power for a little bit. And most of these providers, they actually have plans that allow you to start for free. So you can start playing around for free before you even convince your boss, right? So today, with cloud computing, instead of going to all these steps, when I need more computing power, this is a real image of the Google Cloud. It shows you how if I want more computers, I just put that volume knob up. It's like you're putting the volume in your car radio up, and all of a sudden, instead of 12 computers, you have 20 computers. And then later that night, as you have nobody's using your application, you can put the volume back down and use only one computer. So you're using on demand what you don't need, and you are able to save so much money and so much time. And it's just, to me, a paradigm that has changed the world of computing and the world of business completely, because of this key agility that it provides you to get computing power as you need it on demand. And then, of course, we now have, a computer that's, I'm holding my cell phone, that's actually in our pockets, that's connected to that cloud. So not only do you have infinite power to the cloud as you need it, but you have it in your pockets because you're connected to the cloud via your cell phone. So that means that, the world has changed. And, we've gone from this, I'm sure, you've seen this. This is a typical kind of server rack at a company that's using, that's trying to build their own data centers to power their applications, like we used to do back in the days, and like we see a lot when I visit a lot of the small ports around the world. A lot of them are doing this still, and Obviously, as I mentioned, this takes a long time to do. And if tomorrow you need a little bit more power, well, you have to physically get a new box and put it in there. But instead, you could be using this. This is probably what one of these Amazon web services data centers look like. Obviously, this takes a lot of money to build. It is extremely powerful, and you can borrow it. It can be yours if you need to. Okay, so really, I think with this available in front of you, I think it's really a case of, standing on the shoulders of giants that have the technology, the team to build something like that, so that instead of relying on this, you rely on this on demand as you need it. When I was a young adult, I remember this documentary that I watched. It was about globalization, and they interviewed this Jamaican farmer. And the Jamaican farmer had this sentence that he said, and that I always remembered that sentence. And he said, how can a machete compete with a machine? And the reason I bring it up here is because, to me, this is a case of how can a machete compete with a machine? So from my perspective, if you're bringing an application up and running today, leverage the machines that have been built by these giants, and you have so many advantages that come with it. So what are some of these advantages that come with it? So we talked about the flexibility, the speed that you can get in getting the system up and running. So it allows you to be a lot more agile, move a lot faster, because you need a new application, you just ask them for more servers, you power the new application. But it also allows you to be more secure and reliable, because as you can imagine, when you look at this facility, the security, the network redundancy, the power redundancy that powers this facility is something that was very expensive to build, that is really hard to replicate here, right? So you get a lot more security physically. It's harder to get into that facility, to cut the power cord, and it's also a lot more reliable. The other reason why it's more reliable is because it's not just one cloud facility that Amazon or the other providers are allowing you to borrow. They have a whole network of these data centers around the world. So you're building your application to sit on top of that network, so that if there is a hurricane on the East Coast of the United States, you can just rely on the servers that are on the West Coast of the United States. It would be very difficult for us at Navis, or for many businesses, to replicate this network. So standing on the shoulders of these giants makes a lot of sense, and it allows you to be more reliable and more secure. It also allows you to process a lot more data, because if you're a modern business these days, you have so much data that you might want to process. And a lot of time when you're processing data, you have peaks, right? It's like, today I need to process this massive amount of data, so I'm going to need a lot of computing power for a few hours as I do it. And then once I'm done processing it, maybe I don't need that computing power anymore. So the ability to borrow the cloud when you need it, cloud servers when you need it, is very big when it's time to processing data. And as you can see here, The Economist thinks that data is the world's most valuable resource, and that we are facing a data deluge. So processing data is something that's becoming more and more important. And it's certainly easier when you can pick up computers as you need it to process that data. And then the last point, and I want to mention that there's a lot of other advantages to the cloud. I just wanted to focus on some of the key aspects that from my perspective, think are the bigger advantages of moving your business to the cloud. The last one is that moving to the cloud allows you to innovate a lot more, because most of the innovative products and services these days, they're built on the cloud. And so there is this huge cloud ecosystem that already exists out there. And it's a lot easier to plug into it when your tools or applications are built on the cloud. And I have a simple example of that here. We at Octopi, we sell a terminal operating system. And a few years ago, one of our engineers decided that he wanted to be able to talk to the terminal operating system. So instead of looking at it, he could say, hey, where is this container? And so he was able to very quickly plug in Octopi to his Amazon Echo device so that he can talk to the terminal operating system. And that would have been a lot harder to do weren't we already plugged into the Amazon AWS cloud, which also provides this facility. So just being part of the network, you get tons of benefits and it allows you to innovate a lot more. So these are kind of the 3 or 4 key points I wanted to focus on today. And I'm super excited today that the third panelist that we have with us is our first customer at Octopi. When we started Octopi 5 to 6 years ago, there were almost, I mean, someone can prove me wrong, but I think we were the first software as a service toss on the market. And CPS, where Mark Alex works, was our first customer. So that means that I don't know that I've seen any other port that had used a commercial SaaS-based product before CPS in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. So we have a great panelist today, somebody that has more than 5 years experience of using a software as a service for terminal operation. And he's gonna run us through some of the advantages and his journey of leveraging Octopi's cloud-based tool for his operations. So that being said, Mark, I'll pass it back to you to introduce Mark Alex, and I'm excited to hear what Mark Alex is going to share with us today.